Hello. In this short video, I would like to share good practice. This will be out of my experience of teaching, course managing, and tutoring students in the last 13 or 14 years. And I will be covering three major areas: attendance monitoring, setting high standards, and managing workloads. So let us start with attendance monitoring. In other words, how to monitor students' attendance. The most and the first important thing is to ensure that learners know what is the college expectation or what is the tutor's expectation. There must be clear minimum targets set, and usually this is important at the beginning of the session. You may wish to set a target of 93% or higher than that, 95%, or even higher than that, 97%. The next important thing is to be firm about whatever clear minimum target we have set for students. So these targets must be set and it must be clear. It's important to link or tie this target or attendance of students to their progression in college or to their achievement. Students need to know that attendance is related in some kind of ways to their achievement. And it's important for them to know that it's also tied to progression. It's good to let the student know that even when they have achieved very high in grade, a student may have a distinction in grade, and if the attendance is not good, the student may still not be allowed to progress to the next stage. For example, in a course like ours in industry of animal care, animal management, if a student has not been coming to lessons, how can we say confidently that the student has got a good knowledge of animal care? It's also important to link attendance to future job reference. It's a common practice that when students have finished from the college and they are looking for a job, prospective employers will want some references back from the college or from personal tutors. So it's good to let the student know ahead of time that after they finish their course and when they are looking for a job, employers may want to know how their attendance has been in college. If students are aware of all this, there's a way it helps them to be more conscious and they want to make sure they have good attendance in college. It's important to let the learners take responsibility of attendance. They need to know that it is their own. If a lecturer does not, or if a tutor does not let the student take ownership or take responsibility, you are going to wear yourself out, chasing them around. But once a learner takes responsibility of attendance, you will see that most of the time they want to come to college. Let them also be aware that you are taking register. When you are taking register, don't take register secretly. Call the names out. Let the student know that you are taking register. When they know that lecturers are going to take register, then it has a way of affecting their attendance because they know that you're going to call their names at the beginning of the lesson. Let the student also be aware that you are tracking. Let them know that you are not only interested in the attendance for that day, but that you are tracking the pattern of attendance. You are monitoring the pattern of the attendance. So they need to take ownership. They need to know that you are taking the register, you are calling the register, and they need to know that you are tracking or you are monitoring the attendance. I do group tracking. In other words, at some point, at some period of the year, I put up on the screen for all the students to see what the attendance pattern has been. Opinion will differ on this because some people will feel that it may be a little embarrassing, particularly when you have a very low attendance. And if the purpose or the reason for the attendance is genuine, for example, if it is health reason, And if a student is having a health reason and the attendance is very low, somehow if you put that on the screen for everybody to see, it could be a little bit embarrassing. But I have also found that this can work, because when students see that the attendance is being put up, nobody wants to be the black sheep of the group. So there's a way it affects that group dynamics. There's a kind of effect it has on an individual when they know that, oh, we're going to discuss about our attendance today. Nobody wants to have a poor attendance. So that kind of ginger the students up to want to attend. Another important thing about attendance monitoring is early intervention. When you have identified that student who is having a poor attendance, who is having a low attendance, it is very important that we do something on time, because a stitch in time saves 9. So what I do is I make quick calls to the student themselves, or I send them an email, or I send email to the lecturer or the tutor of that particular student for them to know quickly that the student is not in lesson. So it's very important to do some quick intervention. Do not leave the issue of poor attendance until when it is becoming a very big issue. When a student who normally comes to college does not come on 1 day or 2 days, something has to be done immediately. You need to know where the student is. You can send an email, you can make a call, you can do some impromptu engagement. For example, if a student misses my lesson, if I teach a first lesson of the day, and I see the students in the college maybe in the lunch hour, and the student is going to attend another lesson, and the student was not in my early lesson, I will do some impromptu engagement of that student. Oh, XYZ, where have you been? I didn't see you in my lesson this morning. Now that makes the student to know that you know who is there, you know who is not there. And when they know you are on their heel, when they know you are on their trail, that brings a kind of consciousness of attendance to them. Learners, it's also important to let learners know every absence is recorded. Let them know that if they are absent, that it is recorded somewhere. You put it on Pro Monitor when there is a poor attendance. So when they know that it is going into their record, and you keep reminding them that, well, if we need to make reference in future, we'll make reference to this record that we have written down somewhere. So it's very important to let them know that record is being kept of whatever the reasons for those attendance are. Another important of this record is that it can help you to see the pattern. For example, if a student has been ringing into the college, I am sick, I am sick, I am sick. If that has happened like 2 or 3 times, then you can begin to think about what is the cause for that sickness. We can begin to look a little more closely at the roots of that problem, at the cause of that problem. For example, if another student is saying, oh, it's because I'm having a bus delay. So you may have to ask, which route do you take? Because the management of the problem will be as important as the source or the cause of that problem. So it's important for us to keep record of the absences so that we can track it and know why it is happening. Another thing I found that is very good is to show understanding. When a student is coming late to lessons or is being absent in lessons, it's important to show some understanding of what is the cause. For example, it could be family problem, it could be due to financial issues, it could also be due to attitudinal issues. It could be the attitude of the students. It could be that the student has got a job and they work so hard, they work so much. Sometimes they overwork themselves that in the morning they cannot wake up on time, or they have multiple jobs that is affecting their learning and their attendance, because they are humans. So when you show some empathy, when you show understanding for them, you are able to help them to organize themselves, to be more organized with. And as a matter of fact, that's part of the life skill we are meant to be imparting into our students. So what I call this is working with students for solution. Another thing about attendance is to ensure that we are relating, or we are in our intervention, we are supporting them using the student support services or the additional learning support services. And what do I mean by this? There are some students that they are not coming and they have some issues. If they have financial issues, of course, the lecturer may not be able to handle that. We may need to refer such a student to the student support services. And sometimes some students don't come to college. Maybe they have been struggling with the assignment. Maybe they have been struggling with the academics or with the studies. So in such cases, we may have to redirect such students to the additional learning support department. Another thing that I've found to be very helpful is to relate to next of kins. When a student is not in lesson, I have found that in the past that when I pull a call, when I link up with the parents or the guardian, sometimes we're able to find out what is happening. Some students have told the parents at home, I'm going to college, and they didn't get to the college. On the way, they just turned to play with their friends. So if they know that you are having that relationship with the parent or with the guardian, and those supports can come from there, because they will begin to become more responsible. Another reason why this point is important is because, for example, if a student is waking up late in the morning and you are trying to support that student to wake up early, one of the things you may do is to say, okay, you need to set your alarm. And sometimes they may need some parental support or guardian support at home to be able to get that done. Somebody may have to tell them in the evening, have you set your alarm? I mean, we all grew up, so you know what it looks like. So that is a kind of support we can also give. Well, if it is getting bad, if it's getting repetitive or becoming very recurring, one of the things we can also do is to use the instrument of cause for concern, in which case you record it as a cause for concern, and students already know that if this repeats itself 2 or 3 times, if they have received a cause for concern, that can lead to disciplinary procedure. And whenever a student has come on disciplinary procedure for poor attendance, it's important for us to follow up. We need to follow up with it. Some of the C4C may also lead to fitness to study if it is due with if the poor attendance is due to health, fitness to study. And that's what I mean by FTS here. The next thing I want to talk about here is to publicly and privately notice and reward good attendance and little progresses. What do I mean by this? If a student, now we focus most of the time on the negative, but when you see a student who has got a positive attendance, who has been doing very well, we need to notice them. We need to give kudos to them. We need to let them know. We need to boost their morale. We need to say, well done. We need to use some kind words on them, and that can make them to do more. Now, if we also have a student who has got a poor attendance, and the student has been improving, and the attendance is now looking up, we need to also recognize this. And we must do this not only privately, we do it publicly. We let the other students know that, oh, ABC is doing very well. I am impressed with ABC's attendance. And sometimes it's good to contact the next of kin. Most of the times when we contact next of kin, we contact them on negative issues. When you want to complain about the student is when you talk to the next of kin. It shouldn't be. We contact the next of kin when we see a student that is also doing very well. When my students have been on 100% attendance consistently, or punctuality consistently, I pull a call to the next of kin. I pull a call to the parents. I say to them, oh, I'm so impressed because so person has been on very good attendance. And that has a kind of boost morale. It can boost the morale of the students, and the parents are very happy about this. Good news is always good. Here, I also said, and when I mentioned contacting the parents or the next of kin, sometimes it's good to do it unexpectedly. When they get that call from you, they want to think, oh, the natural thing is to feel, is there a problem in college? Has she caused a problem? Is she a problem to them? But when you say, oh, it's not, it's a good news. I'm so impressed by the way these students have worked in college today. They are so happy about this. The next thing here is to share information promptly and regularly with other colleagues in the office. If you see a student who is absent and who is meant to be in the lesson and it is not there. It's good to notify the tutor and notify other lecturers so that we can see whether that pattern is across the units, across the subjects, or is peculiar to a particular class. Because you can have a situation where a student is absent just with a particular lecturer and is not absent with other lecturers. So it's good to share and find out why this is happening. All right. So what I've mentioned here, there are some of the ways by which we can support students in attendance, and we can monitor attendance of students. Above all this, above everything I've said, one good thing is to ginger the interest of the students in the activity themselves. When students are engaged, they want to come to college. When the activity is interesting, they want to come to college. Let me go to the second point, which is setting high standard. That's the second objective of this PowerPoint. Setting high standard. We found out that sometimes the standard of disciplinary or behavior or attitude of students may not be very good. And that is why we're looking at this point, to raise standards. So what do? It's important to set boundaries early at the beginning of the course. When students come for enrollment, when they come for induction and ongoing, we set boundary early at those stages. We don't want to wait until the middle of the year or until we've gotten to 1/4 of the year before we start thinking of we need to set boundary. If you lose respect, or if the student loses respect for you at the first contact, remember, you may not be able to gain it back again because the first impression lasts very long. So let us set boundary at the beginning of the class. These boundaries should be negotiated. Do not impose ground rules on students. Negotiated boundaries, negotiated ground rules work better than forced ground rules. So, for example, we want to have ground rules on punctuality, on attendance, on behavior, on attitude for learning, attitude to learning, on assignments, on practicals, on respect for staff and peers, online lesson lateness, online lesson latecomers, and earning respect, and so on. It's important that we negotiate these ground rules. So the first lesson, the first time you are meeting those students, the first thing to do is to say, guys, girls, let's agree on ground rules. Let's have rules of engagement. In other words, how do we behave to ourselves? How do we relate to ourselves? When a lesson is going on, if you want to go out, how do you go out? If you are coming late for lesson, how do you come in? How do you behave? If you know you are going to come late, what do you do? What are the steps you need to take? Do you need to make a call to the college? Do you need to ring the college? Do you need to talk to anybody? So this is very important. And that is what we call setting ground rules. Punctuality is very important. Attendance is very important. And we must have ground rules for all this. In other words, what or how should the student behave under each of these conditions? What will be their behavior? So this is what I call ground rule. But the most important thing about this standard is it has to start very early. If you miss it the first week of the course, you may not be able to get it again. So these are some of the examples of the high standards that we need to set. Okay, so students need to know what should be their behavior, what should be their attitude, and it has to be very clear. Okay, respect among themselves, respect for teachers, for other members of staff. For example, in my lesson, in the online lesson, if you are coming late to join online lesson, you will need to send me, as soon as you come into that call, once you are late, you will need to send me a chat. You just send a chat, Ade, I'm sorry, I am late. That is respect. That is respecting, that is courtesy for other people. You don't just walk in and sit down in a physical lesson. Also in online lesson, you come in quietly, you log in, but then you send a chat. It's important that lecturers earn respect. Respect is reciprocal. You don't force respect on another person. You must respect the students. You must respect the learners. You must respect them, the way you address them, the way you talk to them, the way you deal with them. Once you respect them, you are going to gain respect from them, and it is reciprocal. Let us remember that we are not parents. We are teachers. So at no point should you behave like a parent to the students. Let them see that education is a place of discipline. There are ways they behave to their parents at home. They may behave anyhow. They cannot behave anyhow in the learning institution. And that is because we are preparing them for the life after the college. Lastly, I want to deal with managing workload. One of the most stressful jobs is the job of a lecturer. I'm qualified to talk about this, having been a veterinary surgeon, a barrister, and I've been involved in several other careers. So I understand very well that when you find yourself in this career as a lecturer, it's a very laborious job. And that is because you are not only carrying your own burden, you are carrying the burden of the students also. So how do you manage your workload? You have to do so many things. You have to mark, you have to teach, you have to assess, you have to do so many other administrative responsibilities. So what do you do with all this when they're all scattered around? The first rule here is you need to understand the workload itself. You cannot manage what you don't understand. So what are the workload? You need to be able to say, what actually is my role? What actually is my job? There are things that are not your job. Don't get involved in what is not your job. All right? Secondly, you need to understand yourself. Understand yourself. You cannot manage workload if you don't understand yourself. What do I mean by understanding myself? For example, I work better in the early mornings and in the late afternoons, late evenings. Okay? So I understand that in the morning when I come to the office, I don't chat around with friends. Once I say good morning to my the colleagues, I sit down at my desk and I'm very focused. Because if I lose the first 4 hours, then around 12, 1, 2, I'm not at my peak. Before I get back, it's going to be like late in the evening and stuff. So what I do is to make sure that when I know that I have those energy, I invest it into my work. So I understand myself. And we are all peculiar. You are not me, I am not you. You understand the best time when you are at best to work. If you spend the time that you are at best playing, if you spend that time chatting with your friend, another colleague, another friend, colleague, I mean your colleague as your friend, what you have done is you are shooting yourself in the foot. Because your friend that you are talking with, that may not be his own peak hour. So you need to understand how you work. Remember, as a lecturer, you need to teach, you need to mark, you need to prepare, you need to do a lot of administrative work. You need to talk to parents sometimes. You need to, you're also having some tasks to carry out for your team leader and for your managers. So if you understand all this work, then you know how to position them. So the third point here is to organize the load. When you have understood the load, when you have understood yourself, then organize the load. What do I mean by organizing the load? You plan the work. You plan the work, and planning the work means putting them in different positions, having an overview of them. You may have to do this electronically, or you do this by paper. You may do this electronically, or you do this by paper. So you can do it handwritten, you can do it electronically. It depends on whatever suits you or what facilities you are working with. So you break the job down into pieces. So I know that today I want to mark, and I want to mark maybe 2 assignments or 3 assignments. I want to make a call to 3 parents. You need to write those things down. Don't assume in your head that you know them. Write them down on paper or electronically, put them somewhere. Now, when you have put them somewhere, keep your plan visual. Now, this planning and organizing you have done, make sure you can see it. For example, I may have a small paper where I will write all the things that I want to do today, and I keep it where it is, where I can see it in front of me. Don't file that off. Don't file that document off, because that is going to be your guide. That is going to be your sat nav for the day. That is going to be your Google map for that day. You know that I have 4 things to do. 1, 2, 3, 4. You must be looking at those things, because there's a way looking at it psychologically helps you to be able to root through them. That's why when you are working with your sat nav, you don't look at the sat nav and throw it into the boot of the car. You keep it right in front of you, and it's guiding you, it's helping you to move as you are driving. In setting the load, I have put here, prioritize them. What do I mean by this? Some of these tasks are more important than the other. So put the ones that are more important on top, the ones that are least important, put them below, all right? And then walk through as you have planned. And remember, this is peculiar, because you are the one that knows what is important to you and what is not important to you. I have put another point here, seek help. Now, you will find out that sometimes you are struggling with something which is very easy. Somebody has done it before you. Somebody knows it more than you. Just latch at that person and seek for help. Anytime you are struggling, don't keep quiet. Lecturing, teaching is not the kind of a job where you keep quiet or where you assume you know what you don't know. Otherwise, you can spend a whole day doing what somebody has done before, and there's a template that when you get that template, you will only be able to, you'll just be able to do the job in like 10, 15 minutes. So seek for help and know your limit. Know when, oh, I don't understand this thing. And there are always somebody somewhere who can help you. And I said here, do the difficult task first. Opinion will differ on this, because some people believe that you need to do the little task first. For me, I do the difficult task first. The next thing I put there is set smart target. Just like we set smart target for students that we want to help them to achieve, you need to set a smart target too. Your target must be specific. What you want to do must be very specific. I will say, I want to mark biology level 2. Number 1. Number 2, I want to speak to 4 parents. And I will write the names of the parents I want to speak to. And I can say I will talk to them for 15 minutes or 10 minutes or 5 minutes. So when we make it very specific, very measurable, very achievable and realistic, and we put a time to it, you tell yourself, I will do this 9 to 9:15, I will do this 10 to 10:20. These are the things I'm going to do in the evening at 4 o'clock, 4 to 4:30. And then I want to be on my way at 5 o'clock. When you set that target and you click and you fix to it, you key to it, it works. Now I have put a point here, avoid distractions. Avoid. Now I'm going to use 3 words. Avoid, ignore, eliminate time wasters. Some time wasters are your friends. Some time wasters are your colleagues in the office. Some unnecessary calls may be the time wasting. The reason why you are not finishing your task may just be because you are having too many distractions. So look at these distractions and avoid them. You need to be disciplined to be able to carry out this particular step. Avoid. Some people you just have to avoid. Some you have to ignore. Some you have to eliminate them completely. When I say eliminate, I don't mean kill. All right. Next, I said flexibility and adaptability. And what do I mean by this? You need to be flexible. Be flexible. There are some times that you have 5 tasks to do. And when you are on task number 2, you find out it is getting difficult. Leave it and go to number 3. By the time you come back to it, you'll find out that it might be easy. Right? And when you apply these principles, they help you not to be stressed. Okay? And finally, I've said, stop panicking. There is always a tomorrow. There is always a tomorrow. Stop panicking. Stop panicking. There's always a tomorrow. And these are the points I want to share with us as a part of my experience and good practice. I hope this has helped you. Thank you.